Welcome to NovelTech Media. In this video, we are going to build a web scraper using Python and Selenium. So as you can see, here is our web scraper running on Amazon. It is looking up phones, in this case it's looking up the iPhone 11 and fetching some prices. Then it's storing those prices in a pro.csv file. So as you can see, here is our code, and this is what we are going to build out in this video tutorial. We're also going to look into possibilities of price tracking and how to get yourself maybe notified if a certain item gets dropped. But what you will learn is how to web scrape and web scrape Amazon, one of the biggest websites there is. And you will also be able to apply this to your own projects or get the info that you need. So if this sounds interesting to you, let's get started. I have prepared my editor here. I'm using Visual Studio Code as always. And I've also created a folder named source. And we're also going to be using Anaconda, and I have opened my Anaconda prompt here. So basically we'll only need this to install your dependencies and to run our application. So let's get started. First of all, I'm going to create a file called bot. So this is just going to be a Python file, which is going to contain all our necessary code. So let us do some imports. So we are planning on exporting all of this into a CSV file. So what we are going to do is import CSV. After that, from Selenium, we are going to import our WebDriver. From Selenium WebDriver Chrome options, we are going to import options. And don't worry, I will explain what all of this means. So this should be a capital O here. Let us continue. From WebDriver, this is WebDriver Manager Chrome. We are going to import the Chrome driver manager. So why am I importing this one? This one is going to help us get the adequate version of Chrome. So you can download the Chrome driver just as an exe file, so executable file, but then you would run into the problem that if your current Chrome version doesn't match that version, which updates every few weeks or so, you will need to download it again. And if you download the driver manager, it's going to find the right version out of hand, install it the first time, and update it in the future versions. So let us start by creating a class. So our class is going to be crawled article, which is going to have an init function in it. It's going to take a self argument, title, and price. So we want to search our items or scrape Amazon according to a title and price. So we're going to set our title to title, and we're going to set our price to price. So that's basically it. There is nothing too complex about that. So now we're going to have a class of bot, which is going to be our bot. This is not going to take any arguments here. And let us first define our function. So we are going to define our function as article, which always takes the self argument and name. If you're maybe not sure what those self and init means, you could watch some other of my videos that goes much deeper into Python, or you could also check out noveltechmedia.com for my Python course over there. So let us continue. Count is equal to 1, page is equal to 1, our page increment is equal to 10, and our max retrieves is equal to 100. So what does this mean? Count is the number of articles that we are going to use here. Page represents the number of pages that you want to crawl, and page increment means how many counts per page do we want, so how many articles per page do we have. and the max retrieves just represents the maximum number of items you want to retrieve. So let us give our basic URL here. Our URL is going to be equal to https://www.amazon.com. Then it's s*k equal. So this is basically just when you navigate to amazon.com and want to search up an article there. This is the URL that you're going to get. So depending on your location, you could get DE or EN for India and so on. But here we are going to use the .com site. So now we are going to give it our name. Plus, we also want to give it a page. So the page is going to be equal to, and we need to convert our numbers into strings. So since we are concatenating a string here, we need to give it a str page. So let me show you what I mean by this. If you go to amazon.com here, you can just type something like iPhone 11. And as you can see, you're going to have this type of URL here. The reference, you could remove the reference. This is something Amazon uses to know where the traffic is coming from, but you can safely ignore this one. So let us continue with our code. Now we need to define our options. Now we're coming to this. So this is going to be options. And one thing, sorry if I forgot that. So you of course need to install those dependencies. So you will need to install pip, install Selenium. Then you will also need to install the WebDriver manager here. So those are basically the only two packages you will need. So requirements are already satisfied since I have already installed it. So this is what you will need to run. So Selenium and WebDriver manager. So let us continue. We are going to set our options headless false. So headless means that we can either choose to have the web browser activated when our bot is crawling, or we won't open a web browser and the crawler will do its thing. But in order to show you how everything works and how you can inspect this, it's much better if we set headless to false. But of course, in a production environment, you would always set this to true. And I think the default one is true, so you wouldn't need to change that. So options. The next thing we are going to do is add an experimental option, which is detach true. So what does this do? This actually just serves the purpose when we quit our bot to don't close the browser down. So we only want to do this in order to be able to inspect the element and see the HTML and CSS classes that we need, because they are not going to be necessarily the same for all browsers. So if I open Firefox and go to Amazon, some structures, some HTML stuff is not going to be the same, like when I open it in a specific version of Chrome here. So that's the reason we are adding this here. So now we also want to do the following: maximize. We want to maximize our window. So in order to be to have this consistency across everything. So we want to have everything consistent so that the HTML doesn't change, because if it changes, we can't retrieve the same stuff. Now we also want to navigate with the browser, and I will declare the browser in a second. To get our URL, and we also need our browser to set page load timeout to 10. So this means that our browser is going to wait for 10 seconds before it tries to retrieve the elements that we want to have. So now let us create our browser. Is going to be equal to WebDriver, the WebDriver we have imported here, Chrome, and we are now going to use Chrome driver manager, and we are going to run install on that, and we are going to pass our options as options here. So that's how we are going to initiate our browser. So now we need some type of logic where we are going to loop through everything and find the stuff that we actually need. So we are going to make a while true loop. We are going to give it a try catch and try catch block, and we're going to have a catch right here. So what we need here is a few if statements. So first of all, we want to check if we have retrieved, so if we have crossed the maximum number of retrieves. So we are going to use the page increment if it times the number of pages is greater than max retrieves. This means that we need to break this. So we have reached our maximum here and we can break it. Let us give another if statement. So here we want to see if the count is greater than the page increment, and if it is, we are going to set the count equal to 1, and we're going to set the page to be incremented by 1. So sorry if this is maybe not like the fun part, but we need to get the edge cases right before we can actually try scraping. But you could implement some different logic if you would like something else. So now we come to the interesting stuff. So first of all, we want to get the title. So if you go to Amazon, you will see that it's not that easy to retrieve stuff. Let me show you. If you're on Amazon here, and let's say we wanted to get this, this is the price, let's say title. As you can see, there is nothing too special about it. So this A size medium could be or couldn't be right, so we could use it. So one thing you can always use is go to copy XPath. It's always right, and you're going to get the right element, but you need to consider if something changes, anything changes in here, your script is most probably not going to find it. But this is how web scraping works, and in a lot of cases, this is what you will need to refer back to. I will also show you a situation where we have a much better solution to this when we are going to search for the price. So if you go to GitHub, you're able to find the working code uploaded here, and this is the XPath that we are going to need. So this is our XPath title here. So we are going to give it an XPath title equal to this. So I have copied this from GitHub because we are still not in the state to run our application so far, but let me show you what I mean by that. So as you can see, we are having an ID search. This is just basically what would happen if we copied the XPath, and then we have those divs here. So the first article is going to have a div of 1, the second article a div of 2, the third article, and so on. And if we switch the page, we then need to get this counter back to 0 on the next page, and so on and so forth. That's the logic behind using this counter, page increment, max retrieves, and so on. So now we got the XPath for it. What we can do now is get our title, which is going to be equal to browser, which is our initiated web driver, and we are going to use find element by XPath, and here we will just provide our XPath, and then we can also extract our title text, which is equal to title get attribute. Okay, now what we want to get is our inner HTML. So here we are not getting really the title, but we are getting the element. So we are getting a Selenium WebDriver element, and from that element we need to get the text. So what we are getting here is the inner HTML, and we are going to split lines and get the first line here. It would probably work without that, but let's use it as a precaution. Now what we want to do with our title is click on it. When we click on our title, we are going to navigate to the item. So This means when I click on this here, like anywhere, I'm going to open it. And we want to get the price from here, because in most cases you can see the price only here. And I also want to use this one because the X path is much better, much nicer. So now for the price, we're going to have an X path price. And don't worry, I will show you how you can get this once we launch the browser. So in this case, let me just copy this here. Our ID is going to be equal to price inside box. Price inside box. This is just the ID of the element. Okay, nice. What we could do now is let us copy a few things from here. So now for the price, we want to get the element by our price, which still has the same logic. And now we want to have a price text, which is going to be equal to price get inner HTML. We don't need to use the split here now. So after we have done this, we want to navigate back to our main page. So for that, we're going to set our URL again. We're going to set the URL here. And we are again going to call browser get. So we always need to call this get in order to return to the correct page. Now we again want to set the loading time to 10 seconds because it could take some time, and if in that time our request is not met, this would mean that this would fail. So what we could do for this is also use a statement and check for the time that's passed, but I think just to keep it as simple as possible, we can do it like that. So now we get our info in a new file, and we are going to use our crawled article here, and we're going to pass our title text and our price text. Now one thing I forgot here is we will also need some type of array. So let's create an array here in which we are going to push this. So a equals to append our info. So sorry, not equals, but a is just appending our info. And we can now increase our count by plus equal to 1. Okay, nice. Here we have our try catch statement, and except this is going to be except in Python, but I just wrote it try catch to have it nice and tidy up here. So we are going to catch an exception to be able to print the stack message. We're going to call it exception as E, and we are going to print our exception as E here. Now we want to increase our counter again, because if we have an exception, we still want to continue, because exceptions are going to happen. If we can't find an article, if it doesn't exist on a page, if a page has less than 10 entries, so exceptions are going to happen. And we will have the same error handling procedure here as well. So let me get back with this one here. And we're also going to repeat our URL stuff, because if we had an exception, we are going to return back. So, so far so good. One thing we would like to do at the end here is close our browser. So this is where it should be. So browser, close, and we're also going to return our array. So that's basically it. Now we can call this. So we can call this like fetcher is equal to bot. So we initiate our class, and now we can save the files. So with open, like we can call this results.csv. Oops. So this is going to be results.csv. We also want to write, so we're going to use a W here. We are also going to specify a new line, and we also want to specify an encoding, which is going to be UTF-8. Always very important to specify that as CSV file. This is a quite common way of writing to CSV files. So what we need to do now is article writer is going to be equal to CSV writer. Now we're going to pass it our CSV file. We are going to specify a delimiter, which in our case is going to be this. This is just standard settings for creating Excel files. Quote character is going to be our standard quote character, and quoting is going to be CSV quote minimal. Okay, now for article in fetcher article, so remember our function is called article, we want to search for an iPhone 11, and our article writer should write a row with our article title and our article price. This should be a list here. So this should be it actually. Now let's test this out. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of problems with this, but let's try it out. So Python, aim in the source folder, so python bot.py. Okay, that shouldn't be too hard to fix. We just need a plus sign here. Let's run this again. Okay, I really forgot the pluses. Let's run this again. So basically I fixed all the pluses here because I copied everything. I had to edit everywhere, but now it should be working. Let's try it out. Okay, great. This opens our browser and it is set to headless false. This means our browser is going to open. This was one of the first tasks that we have specified to get the browser in full size, and now it's doing its job. So it navigates to an article, it takes its stuff, it navigates back. So we get the title, we go to the item, so I'm not clicking anything here. We get the price, we return back, and we're just continuing to do that. So of course you could find much more efficient ways to do this, but I wanted to show you as many functionalities as possible here. So you are navigating to a different page, you are clicking on stuff, you're extracting stuff, and so on. So let me show you a few things here. So when we, for example, want to get this price here, we can just search this. Sorry, it's in German. And as you can see, this is our XPath. But here, for example, if we want to copy our XPath, and if I paste it here, as you can see, it's pretty simple. It's just an ID and price inside box, buying box. And this is most probably not going to change anytime soon. But for some stuff, you just get an ugly XPath. For example, let's get this one here, copy XPath. Okay, this one was also actually quite fine. But for example, if you go to the main page on Amazon.com and search for something like an iPhone 11 Pro case, whatever, and if you want to get the title here, for example, and if you click on copy XPath, you're going to get some ugly stuff like this. but you just need to use this from time to time, so there is no way around it. You can of course think smartly how you want to crawl the site, but eventually you will need to revert back to XPath. And therefore, if you want to build something in production with this, you should always try to update and change your structure. So we came to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned a lot on the way. If you want to check out more of stuff like this, head over to noveltechmedia.com, or you can always contact me on my email or over noveltechmedia.com. I'm happy to see you over there, so thank you for watching and have a great one.